Hello and welcome to the Cyber Weekly. The Cyber Weekly is heading towards 1,000 subscribers, so be sure to subscribe. Today we welcome John Caballero. Sorry, I don't know why Jim came up first. Maybe the difference in the name. So yes, John will tell us about himself, and yeah, thank you for coming on the show. And I know with your busy schedule, you made it for this show, so I'm really grateful for you to come on the show.
Well, it's definitely a pleasure to be here, and I applaud you for stepping out on your own and getting out there and doing a podcast and informing people about a lot of different subjects. It's not everybody knows what's going on, so you're helping.
Thank you for that. Definitely, I've stood on so many people's shoulders to actually make this work. So I'm always a person who is kind of, yes, thank you, but I know the people who have backed me up, so I'm kind of in the middle there. So, but thank you regardless. So, John, who are you?
Okay, well, in a nutshell, I'm a problem solver. I like helping people. Um, My background is in foreign languages, linguistics, and psychology. And I've been in the IT industry for over 30 years as an innovator and facilitator, bringing security and savings to numerous organizations. And I've even educated some Fortune 500 companies on security issues. And for the last 12 years, I served as the IT and cyber leader for a Florida agency that was Florida's economic development arm. And I actually worked under 6 different secretaries of commerce. So that was very interesting, learning about economic development and how business works. So, my forte, though, is email security. And I won't mention any names, but I've been working in that since 2006, and I've educated a lot of the major players on email security, major vendors. Um, on how to do things a little bit better, adding features. So in the large corporate space, there are a lot of, I won't say a lot. There are some organizations, they're very focused on their mission, but sometimes little pieces fall through the cracks, and they're sending emails that aren't verifiable as coming from them. So that's one of the things that I would educate businesses on is that make sure that you do the free and easy stuff, which is setting up the sender authentication, and that way it's easier for people to know and trust your emails. Now, second to that is also making sure people can't get into your emails. Password, don't reuse passwords. Educate your people. Put in multi-factor access. But anyway, back to me. A little tangent there. You can find a lot of people who do tangents, but my experience covers both IT and OT technologies. I've supported organizations in the state and local government, aerospace, biotech, critical infrastructure, education, military defense, medical research, banking, finance, travel. So um, I bring when I can bring a lot of experience to bear when I create solutions. Learned a lot of that at IBM. I was a senior engineer for IBM. Did um, over 40 major contracts, including was one of the first satellite ground station engineers at IBM. Worked on Hughes satellite systems. But what IBM didn't know is what they asked me to be a SATCOM tech is that 2 years prior, I'm a ham radio operator. So that 2 years prior, I had already built my own ground station, and I was doing digital communications to low Earth orbiting satellites that I physically helped build. There was a group called AMSAT here in town, and I was driving home, and I saw this building with a bunch of antennas on it, and said, those look familiar. I drove up to the building, knocked on the door, and they were actually building CubeSats. And some of them were actually thrown up, launched on the first Ariane 4 as ballast. So back then it was called Packet. So that's one thing. And I was part of a group of senior server engineers that went over to Dell when Dell was spinning up their server line using IBM technologies. So that's that's pretty much me. I love creating solutions. Now, the next thing you wanted to know about was maintaining uptime for systems and high profile clients.
Yes. How do you do that? And how do you design the whole system so that it's highly available and the infrastructure is properly set up?
Well, back in the day, well, that makes it sound old. I'm not, but in my IBM days, they relied very heavily on redundancy, server clusters, clustered storage. Um, RAID was imperative. You had to do RAID. RAID 1 on your boot drives, RAID 5, and then they were moved on to RAID 5e and more complex RAIDs where they do a RAID 1 of RAID 5s because it's mirrored and allows you to lose more than just one drive. Um, so in a lot of cases, they had failover and backup systems. Now it's changed where um, you have other organizations that are handling that for you. So basically, your uptime is basically on building resilience into the platform. And I won't go into all the current stuff. Because that's opens up a large conversation. But one of the DoD people I've met says that 70% of your failures are induced at the concept phase. So, and at some point, it becomes too expensive to fix the error or the failure, and then you basically end up either proceeding with it or working around. So, um, start early. Start planning for a redundancy, resilience, continuation of business. Start early with that.
So if someone is starting, do you think that cloud would be the most ideal right now compared to before when you
If they're starting in cybersecurity,
no, if an organization is starting
ah,
up their infrastructure?
well, they need to first they need to know exactly what they have. I've seen organizations where they bring you in and they don't know every system they have. I was brought into a power company, and they had over 300 servers, and they didn't know what they all did. So some of them were running on very old software, very old hardware, and they didn't have a plan for continuation of business if that system failed. So that's what I would say first is just learn what you have in your environment and find out what the risks are, and then take the steps forward to make sure you mitigate the risks and create disaster plans to make sure that your impact to the business and to your customers is minimized.
Yeah, true. Definitely taking inventory should be the first thing. I think that's the best option to know exactly what you have and what are you planning on protecting. Speaking of that, when it comes to satellites, what is usually overlooked in terms of the cybersecurity of it all?
Well, it's been a few years since I've been in the satellite environment, but when I was working on it, they were mostly secure. They had digital authentications, and so you really couldn't just spin up a ground station and link into somebody's network. So in 1986, a Cap Midnight occurrence, he took over had access to a ground station here, I believe it was in Florida, and he broadcast a signal over I think it was HBO. And then I believe it was in 2022, the Anik F1R, some people had access to an uplink station, and the transponder leased, and they broadcast a signal across North America on a defunct satellite. Um, since then, I think things have gotten a lot more secure, because they're moving toward using much more of the digital access technologies, um, identity management. Um, so my experience with satellites is a little out of date.
Yeah, but I'm sure when it comes to coming away, finding a way of working around issues concerning hacks and critical service running, you still have very strong information about that area. So tell us a little bit about that, and how do you find a way of working around issues when there's an attack, and then how do you ensure that the system is still running, especially critical services?
So you said during an attack? Um, wow. During attack, you basically, I would tell people that they need to, again, inventory what they have, figure out what their risk is. John Kindervag created the first zero trust model in 2010, and he's talking about no more chewy centers. So what that means is once you get in the network, you can go anywhere. So microsegmentation is one of the things you can do. Um, there's a company here called ThreatLocker that does allow listing. So they allow certain programs to run, and they have something called ring fencing. So ring fencing is basically preventing an application from talking to another application. So say Chrome is allowed to run, but does Chrome need to access PowerShell? No. So they put a ring fence around it so Chrome cannot access PowerShell. And then there's network control. Devices can't talk to other devices on the network, or storage control. Should your PC be trying to access data on the finance server? No. So there are a lot of little ways, and zero trust doesn't have to be an all or none. You can look at your environment and determine what high impact, low hanging fruit you have. So like the one thing is well, does every device need to talk to every other device? So if you get and Chrome, does Chrome need to access PowerShell? So if you can prevent those type of crossovers, it makes it much harder for threat actors to move laterally. But if I had to say about a workaround or a hack to keep a critical service running, um, I recall where my IBM skills came into play, where Endel, where we had a main storage system, data processing systems go down. The storage system went offline. So I looked at it, knew exactly what it was, and they'd had a room full of old hardware. And I went through the stack, found the part I needed. You have to be careful when you're pulling hard drives out. You have to keep them in the exact order because it's part of a RAID array. So number the drives as they're coming out and set them down gently on flat surface, put everything back together, powered it up, and it started running. But there was another time where we had somebody we were taking over for had deleted their information online, and we had lost access to a database. So I got a copy of the SQL database and started looking at it, and I was able to reach out to the vendor, and together we were able to figure out what the password was and get back into it. which it was a telecommunications system. So that basically enabled the system to be usable or manageable, administrated by the company. But I think a funny instance is that when I was doing SATCOM work, um, there was a cover over the feed horn to keep water from coming in, and the covers wore out pretty quickly. And depending on how busy of a week or month it was, you could actually run out of your covers. So one of the things we could do is go to the grocery store and buy a can of Pringles. You know, the little flat potato chips in the can. You take the cover off and you put some silicone on the inside lip of the Pringles lid, and then you put that over the feed horn. As long as it's dry, um, as long as the feed horn's dry, you can do that, and you don't have to replace it. But I think that's probably the funniest thing that I've had to do to keep a critical system running.
It reminded me of Mr. Robot to some point, but it's yes. So that's really interesting. So how do you build trust with non-technical stakeholders like school administrators or aviation leaders while managing IT security or IT projects?
Okay, well, I would say just leaders in general and users in general. You have to build trust with both the leaders and the people you're working with. And IBM had a training called Moment of Truth, and you could either come in and be a hero or a zero, and we always aim to be a hero. And one of the first things is that you ask them about their pain points, what's going on, what's stressing them out, and then you listen, really listen. And here's the tough part: you repeat it back. So when you repeat it back, you've let them know that you have their goals in mind and you understand their business. So at that point, they'll take a deep breath. Like if you're in a critical down situation, then they'll take a deep breath because they know you're on the case. And and when you understand these things, the goals and their business, it allows you to create solutions that are right for the organization. So when they know that you value both their time and their goals and the mission of the organization, and that you're in their corner, you'll become that trusted partner. And it also helps if you can break things down into the ROI, the 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 cost benefit. So if we do this little bit, this is what it's going to get you. So again, that's letting them know that you're there in their corner.
Just a quick caveat. When it comes to that, now let's say we are dealing with vendors. Um, is there an SLO which we should have a workaround and know that this is maybe what the stakeholder, this is what we expect from the vendor and this is what we expect from our team, and how do they come together? How do you usually work around that? Because that's like a very technical area which really needs to be addressed also.
Are you talking about? I didn't hear the first part of that. Are you talking about SLAs?
Yes, that's how it is.
All right. Well, SLAs are very important because they set down the the relationship and what's expected. So that's sorry, looking for a word. I would say that understanding the contract and the SLA is very important. That if you're acting on behalf of the customer and you need to reach out to a vendor, then it enables you to say, "This is the situation. This is what the customer needs," and then you can escalate appropriately. So, would you like to? Is there more that you would like to me to elaborate on that?
Yes, I wanted you to share more light on terms of how do you like the team itself, like let's say me, my organization, and I also have these guys who are bringing a solution. How do we ensure that we always make sure that they are keeping their end, and also me, I'm keeping my end, and how do we usually come together and then come up with one piece of work every time? Because sometimes you find that they'll just find something, they'll drop it there for you to use, and then you are left hanging in the balance when things go wrong.
Well, that can be the situation sometimes. Going with trusted vendors, vendors with good reputations, um, vendors that have visible experience in the area that you're working on. I think getting those trusted partners is primary. So one of the things you could say is like, well, how much do you pay for that solution? It's like nothing. Well, it's not working right now. How much is it worth to you? So you could pay more for a solution. Now, no, budget is always a concern, but you could pay more for a solution and say that you've had a high degree of reliability. So that point should be kept in mind. As far as keeping everybody on track, um, quarterly business reviews, those are very handy. Have somebody that is a direct contact between each organization. So if the vendor has an issue, they can go to their direct contact. If the organization has an issue, then they have a contact at the organization. And it's hard to say that but if a vendor isn't fulfilling your needs and they're not keeping up with the contract, then maybe it's time to find another vendor. Though with some products that are proprietary, that's real hard to do. So it's basically it's communicating. It's working together, and everybody needs to be understanding that you're trying to reach a common goal. So it's not rocket science.
Yes. So if we are moving into deeply into technical roles, into strategic and advisory work, what mindset does someone need to shift in order for them to meet the requirements for that?
Okay. Well, when you're deeply technical, you're looking at getting whatever done. You're looking at like we need to roll out a new software package. So you're looking at that. You're looking at basically the process. When you're moving in to strategic and advisory work, you're now starting to think about dollars and how to get buy-in from the organization and the leaders. So the one thing I tell people I mentor is that you need to have tools. Sorry, not tools. Don't ever start with tools. You need to have time, talent, tools, authority, and management backing. So that's TTTAM. So if you lose any one of those five, you could either fail or succeed poorly, and neither is a really good option. Succeeding poorly, you move forward, but there's a much greater cost in either time or in dollars. So having the the mindset where you're looking at um, again, the organization's goal and how to get there. So you have to both think tactically, short term, and strategically, long term. So what is the goal for right this minute? Okay, we need to get this package out, but we need to look at upgrading our systems to something that works better. I had a call yesterday where they're moving from an older system to a newer cloud system, and they're having um, an issue getting some of the packages to deploy, and that's where they're looking at the situation both like how do we get this done now, but then how do we do it better later.
It's definitely room for thinking. Though you blew my mind and about the TTTAs, I actually wanted you to share a little bit more about it and how does it actually work in the grand scale.
Okay, well, TTTAM is you need to have time. You need to have time to do the jobs, and you find that staff are often very heavily overworked. and they're I would call it thrashing. They're going from task to task to task to task, and it creates a lot of inefficiencies. And when you're having to switch um, task, and sometimes you lose track of where you are, and then you have to reintegrate yourself into that task, and that follows very closely with talent. You need to have the people to do your job. So time and talent are very tied very closely together. So if you don't have enough people to do the job, then people are going to be jumping back and forth, trying to keep up, and projects will get set down for a little while. They may not got there are some times that you may not even get back to a project because it was just such a low priority. Having tools, having the proper tools. Like, I remember, one customer, they didn't have any type of patch management, any way to roll out, new software updates. So, remember one time they, had a Microsoft patch come out, and it was critical. So they literally the IT staff had to literally go out and, physically touch, either directly or remotely, over 150 computers across a small agency. So, the tool was to bring a patch management software. So it required extra work because now you had to look at the patches as they're coming in, test them, but then it gave you ability once something was tested to roll out to a small group to make sure it's not going to have a problem, then roll out to a wider group, and then finally to roll out to the entire organization. So basically, that enabled one person or two to actually do the work of many more because they don't have to physically interact with each of the machines. So, the next one would be authority. You have to have the authority to actually do the work. So I can remember a time where we wanted to roll out multi-factor on a VPN, and we couldn't do it. The VP wouldn't allow it because it was perceived as overly complex and would have a negative impact on security. So, basically, they went on vacation, we rolled it out, and, yeah, we had it completely operating, except for the headquarters office, and at that point, even the, receptionist, down in the South Florida office, was already using it, so there wasn't a lot of pushback at that point because literally everybody was using it, and it was working fine. So, um, don't recommend doing this. It can have a lot of negative, blowback, but in this case, the risk, greatly, um, outweighed the, sitting and waiting for the process to go through. Um, and then, uh, later, we did a password audit, dark web scan, and we found that, in the organization, there were several, accounts where the users were reusing passwords. And so had that risk still been present, and I can think of a couple of companies that have been in the news, in the last couple of years where, multi-factor combined with a password reuse, uh, ended up causing an incident. At least one of them was extremely costly. I'm not gonna mention any names. So, that's where authority comes in. Sometimes you have to take charge and do the right thing, but you have to do it gently. Don't be, a bully about it. You can always it's better to lead by getting, by persuading people that, "Hey, this is the right solution," and getting buy-in, but sometimes, well, I got away with that one. And, management backing, that is basically without management backing, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. In the last instance, with the multi-factor on VPN, there wasn't management backing, and the risk was great. So, management backing could also be funding. So, getting funding for a project. I know that, at one point we needed to upgrade our compute and storage. And I said, I reached out to one of my vendors and said, I'd like your product. Would you come in and do a demonstration? And it was expensive, but it reduced our backup costs, and gave us the ability to have a hot DR site. And we could actually do restores of servers in about, let's say, I think a 4 terabyte server took about 8 seconds to do a restore on, to basically rebuild a whole entire copy. Had to pull a VMDK out of off that search of and mount it on another server. So getting that management backing was imperative to actually, well, it made it possible for us to actually have the capability of being able to do that.
It's really good, and definitely we don't usually think of it like that, but yes, TTTA, right?
TTTAM: time,
Eh,
talent, tools, authority, and management backing.
Okay, wow, that's impressive. I'm definitely going to watch this video like 5 times to cram that one. So that I look good in front of my bosses.
Keep all 5, get all 5, and then you don't end up failing or succeeding poorly.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know of examples where or you yourself or other people have succeeded poorly on something.
Yeah, because sometimes it's usually very hard to communicate some of those things because you're bringing in your technical and then they're looking at the budget and they're like, nah. So, yeah.
Oh, well, look at all right. You look at the right now. You look at the average cost of a cybersecurity incident, and one of the things that I really concentrated on was staying left of boom prevention. So the best type of oh no storm that you have is the one you don't have. Nobody is happy after a oh no storm. No executive or manager wants to go to their superiors or their board members and say, we've had an incident and we don't know how long we're going to be down, and it's costing X dollars a day to be down. So staying left of boom is very important, prevention, but you can't just rely on prevention. You got to have the tools in place to actually stop something if it does get in. Have policies, have practices, have tools. I can think of one thing. Cyber psychology is one of my big things. Having been my psychology background, using cyber psychology, it just seemed the way. And in my case, it was flipping the coin from people just wanting to get their jobs done to them wanting to be secure. So part of that of becoming a trusted partner, letting them know that we value their desire to get their work done and that their work is important, and we give them the tools to actually do their work. So no failure occurs in a vacuum. No failure or success occurs in a vacuum. Somebody had to decide to do something or to decide to not do something. So I would consider, if things are going wrong, is it organizational culture or is it personal preference? So if you are given a tool or a weapon to defend your organization and it's not being used, is that because your personal attitude or is it because of the organizational culture? So when you change culture and people become invested in being secure, it pays off. We had one email come in, met none of the criteria for stopping. And the user looked at it, and this goes beyond the human firewall. Human firewall is teaching people not to click. I have something I call the 0.01% defense methodology, which is that was the number of emails that were coming through, 0.01% of the total emails. And the the user didn't want to click on the email. They said it didn't feel right. So improving people's emotional intelligence, helping them with the online disinhibition effect where they act differently online versus in person. And that's where some people come into the office and think that they're safe. It's like, hey, I'm on a work network. Not necessarily. Dr. Lee Haddington says that it's great to have technology, but it only takes one person. And in this case, that one person was a helper, not a harmer to the organization. So they basically sent the email. They sent a picture of it. They sent it over to me. I looked at it and said, "This is garbage." I pulled the attachment out in code out of the system, sent it off to one of my partners, and it came back as a nation state level remote access Trojan. So that was a real nation state attack on our organization. So the tools we had in place didn't actually have to take action because it never got to that point. So that's where part of becoming that trusted partner, part of changing the culture, part of getting people to be part of the process.
Definitely. So that also brings us to the next point, which is the next question, which is what are those habits and daily routines that you use that help you stay sharp while juggling so many high pressure environments?
Well, I would start off by telling people, figure out what the best practices are first and build your own set of best practices. And they're reasonable best practices. You can put in so many security practices that it makes it hard for people to do their jobs. And that's that's another part of getting people to follow the best practices is you have to make it easy to do, and you have to make sure people have motivation to do it. So if it's very hard and they're motivated, they may not follow that. But if you make it easy and you provide motivation, then they're more likely to follow that. So that's where you're working on developing a positive culture. So when you follow your best practices, follow them implicitly. Every time you follow your best practice, do it exactly the same way, even when you're rushed or you were tired, because you'll come back and it may be a month and maybe 2 months and maybe a year before you touch that system again. And you're going to go, I wonder, did I do that? Did I follow? And then when you do that, you're going to go, oh yes, I did. Everything is exactly the way it needs to be. And document your process as you're going. Take screen captures. Take that extra minute. If you just figured something out that was either very hard to find or difficult to do, multiple steps, create a fix fact. FIXFACT, fix fact. It's catchy. And I email them to myself so that there's a permanent record that. But you can also create a KB. So when we were at IBM, we were taught to always do our work and consider the guy that was going to follow up behind us. So if everybody does things the same way, that doesn't mean thinking exactly the same way, because having different perspectives can actually make the environment for creating unique solutions. So if you look at doing an install, and you're thinking, okay, is the guy next to me or that comes after me going to understand what I'm doing here? So we're all busy. So you work on something and you switch over to something else and you come back, you are that next guy. So it's planning for the future. It's making sure that prepared.
Yes, definitely. Especially if you are working in teams, that becomes very key, and also documentation. If you don't have solid documentation, it usually becomes hard to figure out things. And some things, it has been done before. So sometimes, like let's say you find some weird malware somewhere. You can just take the sample and then you check it out on other platforms, and they'll tell you, oh, this is actually not as unique as you think it is. And it's because these other people had already put in a great initiative into documenting such issues that you actually get to receive that. So I believe it's all a community, and so the more we document, the better our systems can be, and also the whole team as a whole, we get to learn from each and everyone. So, what advice do you give someone who is starting up in cybersecurity and wants to become someone maybe like you?
Well, I'll say that I'm smart enough to know that I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and there's always someone or something to learn, somebody to learn from, or something to learn, and that's one of the things is that you never know it all. Um, I would tell people to start with the basics. Learn a little bit about each of the main core technology stacks. Learn about hardware, software, networking, on-premise, cloud. There are a lot of people that are specializing in just one area, but it doesn't like industrial control systems, operational technology. That's real big right now. There's a big push to get more focus on making power plants and water treatment plants and critical infrastructure, making that secure. So if somebody comes in and they say, well, I want to get into cybersecurity, I want to get into cloud, but they also understand how um, OT works, then they can say, wait a second, here's a job that requires somebody who has operational experience and cloud experience, and they understand how physical hardware works. So that really opens the door for people. So I would say don't over focus on one specific technology. If you build yourself a really good solid foundation, then you're going to be able to stand on that. And like you were saying, you're standing on other people's shoulders. But if they don't have a good foundation under them, then it becomes a little wobbly. Oh, and yes, learn about psychology, cyber psychology, and that's basically cyber psychology started as a study how people interact with technology and how technology affects people. But one step away from that is how people relate to cybersecurity. So, password reuse is a good example. So people are not they don't want to do the excessive effort, so they may reuse passwords. And though that is a habit from home, and it's coming into the work. So when you understand how people can be dangers to an organization or dangers to their computer life, then you can create solutions. So, um, like cutting corners. It's like don't cut corners. If you're going to be deploying something, I won't give any direct examples, but S3 buckets, storage, improper configuration. Well, a patch didn't get deployed, so a company was compromised. So understanding, again, organizational culture and personal attitudes, it can help people to new cybersecurity people understand how to create a holistic solution. So it's just not may not be just one aspect that they need to focus on, but it's kind of like a bowl of spaghetti. Everything touches everything else.
And I think the psychology helps you to understand where each and everyone is coming from and what to lean into more and what is key. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's more of the business, because every company works to earn an income and profits for the company. So you have to look at how do you be a business, how do I call it? I'm also using your system of first taking it into process, coming up with what I want to say. So it's more of like being a business helper or business
Trusted advisor,
builder,
trusted partner.
business, something like that. More in the lines of business enabler. So your cybersecurity should be a business enabler. So anything which they require, they will come and they will bring it to you. But you have to look around. How do you secure this in order for them to continue with business? We had a guest some time back, and it was in the back, and they were telling, "Oh, our computer is doing this. We also want to do this." So how do you put it in your network and then ensure that it's secure, that no one can attack it? So yes, definitely, that's also food for thought. Do you have something to add on that?
Oh, I was just saying that, yes, you're absolutely right. And again, it starts at the beginning. It starts at the concept phase. If I was brought into a project to build out a cloud environment, and I was 3 months in when I found out by accident, because I was looking for a file, and I went a couple folders up, a couple of directories up, and I saw this Excel spreadsheet that had a list of cybersecurity standards that they wanted implemented, and I didn't know about it. So starting at the beginning and bringing in all the stakeholders, all the people who are involved in the process, getting together, create a plan for moving forward, and security needs to be the literally after the what you wanted to do. It's like, okay, how do we make this secure? How do we make each step secure? How do we make sure all the steps work together reliably? If it's like different pieces, um, I've seen examples where you can tell that a piece of on a platform, one person or one group wrote this part over here in one area, and another group of people wrote another part of it in another area. And when you get it all loaded up, they don't communicate together. Well, because when they built it on a single system, so there wasn't any. It already had access to talk to itself. So
Yes,
it,
this definitely.
yeah, getting everybody on the same page from the beginning. Um, that's important. And well, here's a tag word: secure by design, secure by default. So if you're thinking about security, it's like in life. If you're not thinking about safety, you're not being safe. So whether it's driving and stopping at red lights, or crossing the street, or if you're on your roof doing some work, you have to be thinking about being safe. It's like when I was doing satellites, we always had to know where the edge was, and if there were some wasp or bees in the equipment that we were working on, we had to know which way to run. So don't actually, when you're running away from the wasp, you don't run toward the edge of the roof. You run away from the edge.
Definitely, yes. So what are your parting shots?
Well, there is a place for lots of different mindsets in um, in the work environment. I read an article on LinkedIn a month or so ago. It was talking about high neurotics and low neurotics. Now, your high neurotic people are the people who are going to be your preventers. They're always looking for the danger. They're are they going to be the people that respond in a lightning flash when something's going wrong? There's a good place for them. But then you have your low neurotics, who are the people who are the preparers, where they are looking at the things more on a level surface. Okay, well, how do we make sure that we have continued funding for this project? How do we get engagement? How do we get management backing? How do we get buy-in? How do we socialize this project? So those people in your organization work together to build a force that moves projects forward. And I guess the next thing I would say is that you never know where you're going to end up or what you're going to do. And for my case, 8 months ago, I never would have thought that I would have been asked to give a presentation to the United States Department of Defense. So last April, actually last February, I was talking about zero trust, cyber psychology, cybersecurity, and zero trust. And an educator from one of the defense universities reached out and said, "Hey, we had someone, one of our speakers dropped out. Would you like to talk?" I said, "I've liked reading what you were posting." And I said, "Sure." So I did a presentation on cyber psychology, cybersecurity, and zero trust, leveraging maturing zero trust by leveraging the human factor. So never would have dreamed that my degree in foreign languages and psychology would have ever ended up me being in IT. Before I was in IT, I was a manager in a retail store. It was a summer job, so after I got out of college, until I found something that I wanted to get into, I went back to my summer job, and the help desk said, "You're good at this. Do you want to come work for the help desk?" So that led to me working for IBM, and then working for the economic development arm of the state of Florida. And then now I've written a chapter in a book on mental health in the cyber workspace. I did an editorial in a cyber magazine. So my parting shot would be pursue your passion, listen to others, learn from others, and then launch yourself into success. So listening is really important. Learning. One of the Jeff Coleman's laws is that a rocket scientist who started a technology company called Coleman Technologies said no one is smart enough to be a dictator. So I believe in that. And another one is the prepared bird gets the worm. So you never know where you're going to end up or what you're going to do, but don't be afraid to try.
Wow. You never know where you'll end up, but don't be afraid to try. Wow, that's interesting. And definitely, it has been a very good conversation. And I thank you for coming on the show. I've really, really learned a lot. And I'm definitely going to watch this video like 5 times to pick some other things which I had missed out on. But for people who want to follow you and see your work, where can they find you?
Easiest way is to just follow me on LinkedIn. I don't post weekly. There's a lot of listening to do. There are a lot of very smart people out there on LinkedIn, and they're talking about a lot of current concerns in the current world.
Cybersecurity space.
Yes, cybersecurity space. Now, here's one thing: is that when I'm considering my work, I'm driving. Consider that I drive down a road to the future, and I see a road sign. So that road sign says, "Warning: there are holes in the road," and you have 3 choices. You can go down the road and not do anything differently, and whatever happens, happens. So next choice would be to go down the road but go differently, or the third choice is to not go down that road. And in our current environment, there are some technologies that have come out where that third choice has been removed from us, is that large language models, augmented intelligence, things like that. We need to consider what we're going to use these technologies for and how we can best help people. So option 1, not a good option. We can't just go. So that leaves the second option, which is how do we go down that road differently?
Yes. Thank you for that. And thank you for coming on the show. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for being here. It was my pleasure.
Yes. For our audience, be sure to check out John. I included his LinkedIn profile in the show notes, so be sure to check him out. Other than that, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so be sure to subscribe. And see you all in the next episode.